Hey guys, it's Riven Tactical here. I thought about doing a couple different things lately. I know it's been a while since I put any like major things up that had any content other than the small little projects. Um, I was kind of wondering about talking about what I guess brought me to this point, and it's going to be quite a bit of series of different stories and different things that got me into the prepping world or community or where I was, I guess. And then I guess it started out like who I really am, right? Well, who I was back in high school, or I guess growing up. We grew up in a middle class home. Probably started out really, I'd say probably lower income, and my parents made it to about probably mid range. I wouldn't say mid range to mid low income, but they've always provided, right? They always provided us with a house, food, shelter, and the basic necessities. We weren't rich. Going on a vacation was kind of a treat. You realize as you got older, and as they paid for a private education for the both of us, all the way up until 8th grade for Christian school, that it was very, very unique that they sacrificed this much when most people weren't. Most people were buying a brand new vehicle or newer homes and all this stuff. So that's really what up until 8th grade was. And for me, growing up in 8th grade, it was very church-centric. We went to church on Wednesdays for your youth group. Sundays was our church. And then it was a Christian school, so you kind of got overwhelmed with that. My circle of interest at that time was I was an avid reader of like history and the Tom Clancy books, and I loved airplanes and military technology and kind of like the firearms, but I wasn't into firearms. We weren't a hunting family, so we didn't really have guns. And my parents really couldn't afford it. My dad wasn't into them, so it wasn't something that he could really teach down. My grandfather, on the other hand, was an avid collector of World War II and Civil War stuff, and had he probably lived, which is the sad thing, had he probably lived past when he died and had a heart attack around when I was 19, graduating high school, or before I graduated, he and I probably would have had, we had pretty much a shared interest, and we were kind of figuring each other out as we got older. And my dad was a great mentor, and he was also a great mentor in my life. So I was really fortunate to have two really solid male role models in my life like that. My grandfather was also in the Wisconsin National Guard, so that was kind of cool. And he almost went to Korea, and my grandma talked him out of it at the time, which was a good thing. And he raised his family. And my dad has always been like a machinist. Was going to school to be an architect, so he's always got that like engineering mindset, which is always interesting to see. So I'll spin it up to about 8th grade, right? So 8th grade, my major interests were like I was the geek nerd. We were learning computers, so we were building computers in our house, in our basement, and I think by my freshman year, it's pretty much all I did was hang out with the computer people. And I found solace in it. There's some friends in it in my high school. I really didn't fit in high school. I was kind of like a geeky, nerdy kid who was just really quiet, shy, and probably afraid of everything, which really sucked. Here you are wanting to have fun and do this, and you really have limited friends, and it was fine. I had friends outside, from the Christian school. Rolling into high school was a public school, so when you went from graduating from 8 people, I think we had, and you go to a school where your freshman class is like 600 people, it's a different culture shock. Plus, it was a different culture shock going into a very secular school, or you call it government school, right? I did appreciate the public schools for the opportunities they had, because they did have computer labs, and at the time, when in '96, when I was in school, the computer thing was coming out. Not every school, and this was a pretty good school, didn't have all the labs, didn't have all the stuff, and it was kind of a weird thing. So that was my beginning, and high school was different. The first 2 years was probably harder than it really had me. I didn't really have any friends in the school. Outside of the school, I had my close friends from the Christian school. And then around 10th grade is when I joined basically a production studio in the school. They had their own little television studio, and it was kind of a way that you could, by your senior year, you'd have basically have half a school day. The second half of your school would be going to different businesses and checking out their media programs and what they did and how they operated, and it was very, very cool. And then that was, I should take it back, that was my junior year. The second year I took it, and my teacher got let go from the school, and the substitute that was helping out took over. But I was able to get an internship at the local city's television studio, which is basically your government-run one. And I interned there, and I worked there. I mean, it was decent. I mean, back in that would have been 99, 2000. Back then, I mean, I think we all got a raise at the time. You know, I was making $12 an hour, which was huge. You know, considering most jobs would pay minimum wage around $5.25, and it was fun. Like, it was a group of people who were much old. Well, I wouldn't say much older, but a couple years older in college, and it was a different atmosphere. You know, different priorities for these guys. So it was kind of cool being around older, smarter people. Like, you just felt like, oh, cool. There's more to life than this. I enjoyed it because I got to work with all the TV stuff, and we had a great time making videos or filming stuff. And we worked with the local, government. We did like little mini series with like the history of the city and all these announcements. And I learned a lot about film and editing and just all that kind of like crazy stuff. So then walks in, you wind up having to deal with what do you do for college, right? Well, college was interesting because I didn't know what I wanted to do, like many people. Your options for me was I wasn't on the 4-year college route, so I knew that for sure. So I was looking at tech schools, and I looked at it and went, okay, I really started at the time before that, started getting into automotive. I took 1 semester of automotive and the last year to fill up some credits, and I found it to be interesting. I always liked cars, and I always liked them. I thought they were cool. Didn't know much about it, and kind of was getting into it at the same time. So then I looked at the school for college and tech school, started talking about it, and they mentioned that I had to take a full load for computer networking. Was going to be almost 18-20 credits, and they were showing the schedule out. And at the time I was working for the television studio, I went, wow, this would really basically kill my job. I could not work and still go to school. So I was like, how are you going to pay for it, right? And that's always the thing. How do you pay for it? So then I looked at the other option I looked at the automotive program. Well, I could still do this at the same time. And I thought, well, you could become a mechanic, right? You know, how could this be? So I chose the automotive route, and I don't look back at it. I liked the program, but I like the IT world, but at the same time, the IT world was getting replaced by foreign, guys from India, and they were kind of downsizing. Like, that whole realm still exists, but it's a little bit of a tighter race. So, and I go to college for automotive, which is like an 18-month program. It was good. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It was kind of me. It was like getting a drink from the fire hose of information and buying tools and all this. I wound up working 2 jobs, and I wound up working for small shops, and that's what I did. So during that time, I started getting into cars, right? So I really wanted something fun, and that's where I'm going to leave it off, because I'm going to talk about that afterwards. In the next video is the car that I think changed my personality, and the car that really changed my, gave me some opportunities that may move me forward and be a little bit more outspoken and kind of open me up to not being just a shy kid. So I'll get back with you guys on the next one. Hopefully this series about me is kind of a little different and maybe a little interesting. I don't know. I really wanted to try something else because I've been watching a couple of the VinWiki guys, and I thought, man, these guys are sharing some cool stories about their lives. And I said, I may not have lived the most interesting life, but I've done some interesting things and had a good time doing it. So with that, it's Raven Tactical signing off.